running for Attorney General. And most of half the people in this room before, but for those who haven't, I start with personal stuff. I'm a father. I have 3 boys. I got one in high school, I got one in college, and I got one in middle school. So obviously with 3 boys running around the house, all the furniture's broken, stained, and we just don't replace it anymore. That's just how that works. I'm a lawyer down in Greenwich. I've been a lawyer in New York and Connecticut for the last 25 years. I'm a football coach. I coach in a league that actually includes Wilton and all of Fairfield County, and I've been doing that for 15, 20 years. Before that, I played semi-pro football into my 40s, and I talk about football for teamwork. We'll talk about that in a second. But away from the personal stuff, on the government service side, some of you may remember I was a state representative, 3-time elected from the 135th, Reading, Easton, and Weston, 2 of the towns of which typically vote Democrat. I won all 3 towns all 3 times because I talk to people like people, not as voters. I talk here as opposed to here first, which is something we need to do as Republicans. That aside, I served with Gail, I served with Larry Cafaro, I served with everybody else. You may also recall in 2016, I gave up my seat in the State House, and I ran for U.S. Congress here in the 4th Congressional District. The good news is, I got a record high vote total for any Republican. I got 125,000 votes. Shays never broke out of the 90s. Obsidnik and DeBasella never broke out of the 80s. The bad news is, Himes got 140-something thousand, so here I am a year later. So what did I do in the year off? I basically went back, started practicing law, trying to help some of my friends up in the House, get reelected, et cetera, et cetera. Well, here we are now facing 2018, and we have a unique opportunity. We have a unique opportunity to finally take control of the state with Republican leadership. And one of the ways we do that is to elect Republicans to the 5 congressional offices. So one of the things you see the palm card I handed out. I always have the picture of me coaching the kids because I talk about teamwork. If we want to win this year, if we want to win in 2018, we've got to play as a team. If we play as a team, we will win as a team. But if we play 5 individual congressional races, we're going to lose. We're going to lose again. Because guess what? Nobody comes out and says, you know what I'm going to do in the first week of November? I'm going to go vote for the comptroller. The comptroller could be in this room. I wouldn't even know. I'm going to go for the AG. No, what they do is they vote for the top of the ticket, typically, and the best team. We've got to start running as a team. So what do I bring to the team? Well, first of all, my approach to Attorney General is stable tax, regulatory, and legal structure. I believe that prosperity comes through predictability. Our businesses in this state can't put down stakes without getting hit with a new tax, new law, new lawsuit. That's got to stop. I'm a commercial litigator by trade. I'm moving businesses out of town, out of the state, because that's the right advice, unfortunately. That's got to stop. You may want to know, in 2016, the Attorney General's office, which is all civil, it's all civil side stuff, the Attorney General's office brought 18,000 lawsuits. 18,000 lawsuits were brought in 2016 by our Attorney General's office. That's got to stop. That's got to stop, because when people get, the Attorney General's got to know the difference between when you pick up a pen and you pick up a phone. And I've always been, and I will be as an Attorney General, I pick up the phone first. I say, you know what, we have an issue here. Let's talk, as opposed to, I'm going to sue you first and hold you over a barrel. Because that's what's chasing businesses out of the state, and that's what's been doing it for years. So that's what I bring as a politician, as a government servant, as an attorney. But more importantly, is what I bring to the ticket. The 125,000 votes I got a year ago, plus my 6 years in Hartford with Gail and everybody else, plus the stuff I've done around your local service, helps build a ticket that is a winning ticket. There's 125,000 people. I broke 15% in Bridgeport, which was actually a record high total too. People say, hey, I know that guy. And if I'm on the same ticket with the right team, whether it's Peter, whether it's Steve, whether it's Mark, whoever it's going to be, we've got to start playing now. So I'm asking for your support, both obviously as delegates, but also in dollars, because once I qualify, you raise $75,000, you get $750-ish thousand from the state, CEP, which we voted against, but here it is still. Once we qualify and we get the funding, we start pushing the entire ticket. We roll the boat for everybody. Instead of taking everybody's little tranches of money and trying to run for treasurer and controller and AG, no. Shaban takes that money, runs for AG, but also pushes the entire Republican ticket, because that's the only way we're going to win it. We got to play as a team. We play as a team, we win as a team. That's why I'm running, that's how I'm going to run. You met me before, most of you. If you have any questions, I can take them now. Any questions, Bill?
I defer to my capable and fine RTC.
Sir.
Going to Marlins tonight?
What's that?
Kidding.
I'll go, if you're at Marlins, I'm going there.
Who's your competition? Who are you running against?
Well, on the Democratic side, there's 3 or 4 folks that have come out, maybe even 5. William Tine out of Stanford, they're Paul Doyle. I forget, he's a state senator, I believe. I mean, they're actually good people. I get along with them. We just disagree on just about everything. There's a guy named Chris Matty, who's a U.S. attorney, who actually may have some legal issues about whether or not he's qualified under our state statute. There's a woman, I can't remember. On the Republican side, there's a woman who's filed an exploratory committee named, I think Annalise was handing out some paperwork, Sue Hatfield. Nice lady, old state prosecutor, former state prosecutor. So there's 1.5 Republicans and 4.5 Democrats running away. So, sure.
I'm not quite sure whether this is totally correct, but let me ask the question anyhow. A while back, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months back, Malloy made a comment that Connecticut was a sanctuary state. They was proud of that it had been voted in unanimously.
Right.
And I did some research on it, and that's, obviously, I got difficulty reading all that legislation. So rather than that, is if you become Attorney General, what are you going to do about that?
About what? Us being a sanctuary state?
Yeah.
There's 2 things you can do. You almost have to do it in a negative context, because the Attorney General typically either brings lawsuits to enforce states' rights or brings lawsuits to protect state citizens. In the context of whether or not we're actually obeying federal law, the first thing I would do is get our name off of the list as a plaintiff. That was our current Attorney General Jepsen has stuck us on with other Democratic Attorney Generals suing the federal government who wants to enforce immigration laws. That's the first thing I do. So the first thing we do to support federal immigration law is to get our name off the list of people who are challenging. Because one of the things, and you may remember when I was running for Congress, my big issue is states' rights. My big issue is states' rights. We govern from the bottom up. We're states first, federal government second. But there are things the federal government has to do, does do, and is supposed to do under our Constitution. Not nearly as much as they have been doing in the last 70 years. And one of them is immigration. If the federal government passes immigration laws, the state of Connecticut damn well better follow. Because first of all, that's the law. And second of all, that's the right thing to do. So the first thing I do is get our name off the list of states who are challenging. That's the first thing. Then after that, you sort of have to bob and weave and figure out how the policies play out. But yeah, I agree with you. That's the wrong
I have
direction.
a secondary question.
Sure.
You mentioned that you wanted to play as a team.
Yep.
Let's assume that we have a Republican government that's elected. You being the team member sitting on the bus with them before you get elected, are you going to chew off his ears to get that reversed?
Just to get what reversed? The sanctuary city? Oh yeah, damn you.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of things that the Attorney General can do and can't do. One of the things we can do is enforce what the state of Connecticut and its citizens want to do. And unfortunately, what we've had is Attorney Generals who are more interested in getting in the headlines than they're actually making people safe in the process. That's exactly the wrong way to go. I mean, everyone knows who Dick Blumenthal is. People still think he's the Attorney General, even though he's a federal senator. He's still playing like, you open up a garage door, there he is. Hey. He scares the hell out of him. He goes to birthday parties, for God's sake. He's still doing the same thing. The new Attorney General, the guy named George Jepsen, who was the last 8 years, did a slightly better job. He did, I mean, honestly, he did a slightly better job. Because most people say, I don't know who the Attorney General is. Is it still Blumenthal? Regardless, that echo, that hangover from what Connecticut does legislatively, tax policy and everything else, and the AG's office is what's hurting the tax and regulatory stability this state needs. And the AG can bring it by playing as a team. Any other questions, any other thoughts? Well, if you don't have the palm card there right here, you're going to do the car salesman thing, Shaban for AG.com, Shaban for AG.com. If you donate now, not only do you get the confidence of knowing you're helping out a fellow Republican, you'll get, I think you get a thank you email. So thank you very much. Any questions? Actually, I got to go to the next thing. I've been hanging out for a few minutes. I'll see you guys all again. Thank you much. Paid for by Shaban for AG, John M. Whitcomb, Treasurer. I'm John T. Shaban, and I approve this message.